started. Yep, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the Amber Army YouTube channel, I've got a real treat for you all today. I'm joined by former player and manager, John Relish. John, thank you very much for joining me today, mate.
No problem.
Excellent. So I've been doing some research on you, mate, and I come up with some questions. So if you want, I'll kick off with the first one.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Please. So you started your career as a player. Your youth career was between Liverpool and Chester.
Yeah.
You made your senior debut for Chester. You made a few appearances for them. So you ended up joining Newport more or less straight away. So why Newport at that time?
Basically, because of Brian Harris, the manager. As I mentioned to you before, Chris, I was a massive Evertonian. Always have been. Brian was the captain in '66 when we won the FA Cup.
Oh, right.
He was a big hero of mine. When he picked up the phone and asked me to come down to Newport, I had about three or four other clubs interested in the Northwest, actually, which would have been easier for me. But as soon as I knew that Brian was interested, I came straight down.
Oh, happy days. Because a lot of the time that I'm sort of hearing, why people come to Newport back then, Len Ashurst was a big reason why. Yeah. So the manager always makes a difference, when a player does eventually move on to another club. So yes, you joined Newport then. So how did you find the town and the people?
I mean, I've always found the town and so friendly. In fact, I compare it very much to places in the Northwest like Liverpool and that. The people are friendly. There's so many similarities, both ports, dock areas, and I just think there's quite a lot of synergy between the two people. Very similar types of people, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I get the same sort of feel, because I've known a lot of people from sort of Merseyside sort of area who basically say the same thing. Docking towns tend to breed the same kind of characteristics in people, don't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
a little story about that, Chris, was that the pitch was so bad at Somerton Park, and Brian and people of an older age will know Brian was the consummate joker and great personality, fantastic character. But he wouldn't take me to Somerton Park because the pitch was absolutely atrocious. So he took me to the a pub in Chepstow. I think it's the Two Rivers, I think it is, just outside Chepstow. And that's where he signed me. And when I signed, he said, right, we'll go and have a look at the ground now. But he wouldn't take me to the ground until I'd signed the forms. And, Chris, the pitch was atrocious in them days. Terrible.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know we moan about our pitches now. Obviously, you may have seen Rodney Parade over the last couple of years has been pretty boggy, but you do see some images of, sort of past football matches where the pitch is an absolute bog. So I take it that it sort of falls down that kind of line then.
Well, it hadn't been cut at all, so it was about 12 inches of grass on there in the summer. Don't think they had a groundsman at the time. And they also still had the speedway on the outside.
Yeah.
And that used to mean that the corners were cut and they used to put like a matting over to take corners. And it was in a bit of a derelict state, I would say. It improved greatly in the next few years when Len and Colin Addison were there. But at that time, in '74, it wasn't too good.
Oh, no. Because I was going to ask you about Somerton Park. Obviously, the pitch wasn't great. But how did you find playing there?
Oh, it's a great atmosphere. The railway end, Cromwell end. People stayed, people went in. You talk to people now and they'll tell you that they always met their friends either on the railway end or in the Cromwell way or just above the stand, by the stand, or over at Paddy's Bar as it was. It wasn't what you call a pretty stadium in any shape or form, but it had a character that, I think you'd struggle a new ground to get that kind of character. And it wasn't only the county, but Somerton Park, and anyone who played on it was, it had its own characteristics, and it was a really, really good place to play.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to look good to have that characteristic, I take it.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's the people. It's the people that populate it, really. And as I say, it was an ugly stadium because it was like nothing was, it was just a stand there and a sort of railing there, and it wasn't, but it just had something about it. And as I say, people overstayed in the same spot for years, and their families did, And even now, I talk to people and they say, I was behind the Cromwell Road for 30 years and stuff like that, So it was a big shame when it went. But
yeah, absolutely. So I was going to ask, obviously being from Merseyside, did you have a hand at all in helping, fellow Scouse players like Tommy Tynan and John Aldridge to join the club?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd actually knew Tommy before because I was on schoolboy forms with Liverpool,
Hmm.
and Tommy won a prize, a national prize called Find a Soccer Star or something. It was in the Sun or the thing, and he won that, and
Hmm.
that gave him got him on schoolboy forms for Liverpool. So I'd actually sort of knew him slightly from there. I didn't know
Hmm.
John at all, but I knew he come from South Liverpool. Len's brother got him signed. Yeah, I mean, they're both big characters, so you didn't need to say much to them. But they played a massive part in the success of that county team.
Absolutely. So, well, what I was going to come to was the season that a lot of people probably ask you about in 79 and 80. Where does that rank for you as a season within your career?
Well, do you know what? It's probably the best time out of the county, but I got a real sort of problem with it. I think I played about 43 of the 46 games,
Hmm.
and yet I missed the last one because I was injured at Walsall, and that
Oh,
really, that
yes, sir.
really, really annoyed me at the time. Me and Dave Bruton both had a fitness test before we left for Walsall on the morning, and to be
Yeah.
fair, I was playing with an injury for probably 4 or 5 weeks, and
Mhm.
playing and playing. I think it was a bit of a hamstring strain, and it just got worse. And by the last game, I just couldn't do it. But when I look at my figures that year, I think I played 43 of the 46. But the one I really wanted to play in, I actually missed. So, but yeah, it was a great season, and we just felt we were going to win every time we went out. And you don't get that very often. That,
No, no.
you
No,
just,
that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? No, I can't think of a bloody word now. That unbeatable sort of feeling. In
yeah,
the invincible feel. When you go out there knowing no matter what, yeah, I reckon we're going to win today.
yeah, absolutely. We go behind 1-0, 2-0. Yeah, we'll come
Mm.
back. When you have people like Tynan, Aldridge, Gwyther, you
Yeah.
know, Nigel Vaughan, they could pop up with a goal anytime. So we never thought we were out the game, and that was the case.
Or at the very least, Kevin Moore would win you a penalty.
Kevin Moore will trip over his own legs and get a penalty. I don't know how many he got that year. I think he got about 11, didn't he, that year? I don't know if you check it up, Chris. I think you'll find, or maybe the following year. But one year he got about 11 penalties for us. But do you know what? He used to mesmerise you the way he run at you, and what a good winger, what a good player he was, Kevin.
Absolutely. He was actually my first one, the one that I actually did. It was really, really enjoyable. That was, and that obviously gave me the confidence to get on and talk to more of you guys.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously following on from that, then obviously winning the Welsh Cup as well. You guys got to play in Europe. So playing in Europe, with Newport, what kind of experience was that for you?
Oh, it was surreal. It was surreal because we actually we went to Belfast the first game, and we
Hmm.
were in the dock area while the Troubles was on. We couldn't actually stay in Belfast; it wasn't deemed safe for us, so we
Yeah,
stayed outside of Belfast, and we had a police escort in. And it was a ferocious crowd. They were all Belfast in the docks areas. It was quite
yeah,
partisan. And then we played Auga in Norway
yeah,
over 2 legs. And then we had to go over the checkpoint Charlie at Frankfurt. We had to go into East Germany, and we
yeah,
had we had guards with us. We couldn't go out without the guards coming with us because it's still East Germany.
yeah,
So that was a bit weird. That was weird, but great experience, And our best
yeah.
performance was at Carl's Ice.
Oh yeah, the 2-2 over there. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody expected us to get battered by them, and we managed to draw 2-2, take two
Oh,
away goals, and come back home. So obviously, I was going to ask you about the experience of actually being in East Germany at that time. Obviously, you answered that one for me. But do you think we deserved to beat Carl Zeiss over the 2 legs?
oh, without doubt, and they'll tell you the same if you speak to them. They got out of jail at Somerton Park. Our away performance, actually, we probably nicked a draw there because we were 2-1 down, and then we got Tommy scored on the turn. But we really dug in deep that night, and we were under pressure for most of the night. But we got a result at 2-2. But at home, we absolutely battered them.
Yeah,
And you know, that keeper's not going to ever play like that again. And one of the defenders, how he ever got the ball from off the line, I think it probably was over the line actually, but you can't tell. We didn't have that technology then. Keith could have scored a hat-trick that night. He was immense. He was absolutely immense. And I always wondered why someone didn't take him up to the top division after that. But that's it.
Yeah, because he only really went up as far. It was Fulham he eventually went to, wasn't it? Probably the
yeah, he went to Fulham. We used to play against Steve Bruce's team at Gillingham quite a lot.
Yeah.
And all the big clubs were watching Bruce. And I think all the lads who played with Keith would say Keith always got the better of him.
Really?
Yeah. Keith was one hell of a player. If he had anything, probably a little bit short of top end of pace was probably what kept him out the top division. But as a header of the ball and as a 2 good feet, strong as an ox, and so brave. I've seen him at Colchester, and the chap McDonough actually rearranged his nose. Terrible challenge like that. And me and Richard Waldron were looking and saying, Keith, you got to go off. And he said to Jimmy Goodfellow, just give me the sponge. And he straightened his nose with the sponge and played on for the rest of the game. Every time he headed the ball, we cringed. But that's what he was like. He was brave as a lion. And that's why the players who played for Keith will tell you, you never wanted to give anything less than 100% because you'd think you'd let your captain down. And he was such a good captain,
He played with a broken arm, didn't he, the once as well? Because I remember when I spoke to him, we were talking about that at the time. He actually played with a broken arm.
Yeah, he played with a broken arm. Kelly Dixon at Reading made a right mess of his jawbone. He played on with that.
Yeah.
And then we played Reading down at Somerton Park, and Colin Allison knocked on the door of the Reading and said, Kerry, Keith's playing. And after 20 minutes, Kelly Dixon went off. He did. He actually went to the thing. He said, I've got a put of a pull, and he went off. But Keith was one good defender.
Yeah, and it's having him as a captain has got to make you feel, invincible on that football pitch. Having someone like.
Yeah. I mean, he must have been Len Asher's best signing ever. 15,000, I think, from Peterborough.
Steal.
Absolute steal. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like obviously having, in the newer generation, a bit like David Pipe, having David Pipe as your captain, has got to have that kind of effect.
Yeah, someone you can look up to, that they're not going to let you down. You don't want to let them down,
So you guys back then had the real makings of a great team that was progressing really well. In 1982-83, how close, how close were we to that promotion? What kind of a difference could it have made if we'd have to our eventual future if we'd actually got over the line on that?
Oh, it's hard to say, but we should have gone up that year. We were the best team in that league that year, and it's our own fault. We went top after beating Cardiff City on Easter Monday 1-0 in front of 18,000, and then we went and lost away to Gillingham 2-1. And I can remember the game. Dick Tideman, who was a big centre midfield player for them, I think he scored the 2 goals. But I can really say that over the season, I thought we were the best team in that league, and I know that other teams thought the same. We just blew it. We just lost a little bit right up the death. I think we lost out by 1 point in the end.
Yeah, I think we lost out by 1 point, but I think it was a return of 4 points in the last 7 games.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. I think that was the Cardiff City game, which should have really said, right, we're going to go and win this now. And I think we won 1 game after that. Yeah. We did have a tough running. We had to go to Huddersfield, Gillingham. We had a tough running, but there's no doubt in my mind we blew it, and that's something I would possibly criticise the management for, in as much as they came to the conclusion at the end of that season that the team wasn't good enough to go up, and started to dismantle it. Now, I think we were good enough, and we should have stuck with that team.
Yeah, yeah.
A damn good chance going up next year. But I think you'll find, and I might have me memory just playing tricks a little bit, but I think we lost John Aldridge after that. I think Nigel Vaughan moved on. I think Steve Lowndes moved on. And I think then Keith moved on after that, a bit later on again. So we lost, half a team basically that moved on after that season.
That would be the spine of your team there, just them three names alone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they moved on like all the same, but in the next 12 months, there was a big, exodus of players. And if we could have kept that team together for another year, I'm sure that we'd have been up there or thereabouts the next season.
Absolutely, yeah. So moving on from that one then, you were briefly the manager of the club in 1986 before you ended up leaving then in 1987 for Forest Green. It's fair to say that period that the club faced were its difficult times before its ultimate demise.
Yeah. Well, Bobby Smith was sacked in about Feb or March, and they offered me the job. And at that time, I'd already decided to retire, and I had a job at the PFA Players Union.
Yeah.
I already had been promised a job with the PFA, so I took it on till the end of the season with Leighton James as my assistant, and we only signed the one player, Bob Latchford, and I think I lost the first 3 or 4 games, but after that, we ended up finishing about 11th or 12th in the table. So we were rock bottom. We had a hell of a run at the end. I think we won at Derby County or drew at Derby County. We won away at Southend, was it Gillingham, at Blackpool. I think we drew at Derby at home as well. So we had a great run at the end, and we stayed up quite easily. So
the club had its financial problems starting around about then, didn't it?
Well, to be fair, I knew that they were struggling to pay wages when I was manager, and it wasn't getting better; it was getting worse. And when I took over as manager, they promised me that the players will be paid this season, and they stuck to that. The players were paid, but they knew that further down the line, I don't think they could have kept that promise into the following season. So, decisions made in '83 for me culminated in what happened when I left, because the next season Jimmy Mullen came in, and I think they got relegated that season, did they? Or maybe '88.
Relegated Division 3 in '87, relegated out of the Football League in '88. Then before
that's right. It was a downward spiral, and it was so sad. Another big issue, Chris. Another big issue was the board at the time sold the ground back to the local authority.
Yeah,
I think that was a massive mistake, because while we had our own ground, we had some collateral, we had something, we had an asset.
Yeah,
we sold it back, probably to fix a sort of an immediate problem, but I don't think it's the right thing to do long term.
Oh, definitely not. It's like putting some gaffer tape over a hole in your car or something. It's a quick fix, and it wasn't the best thing for it for the long term.
No, absolutely, that's true. Yeah.
Then obviously, what ultimately ended up happening is the club went bankrupt and out of existence, unfortunately. But then David Hando and his group of supporters put in and made Newport AFC and actually found the Hellenic League to go in. And thankfully, they had you as the first manager, your player manager as well.
Yeah.
How did it come about then? Did they have you in mind straight away, or did you contact them and say, I want to get involved?
I believe that it coincided quite nicely, because I was coming to an end of my playing days at Forest Green. I had a job at the PFA. I was playing part-time for Forest Green. I was more or less saying that's my last season. So they knew that I was available, and I knew David quite well, and I knew a lot of the supporters who were the board in that time. So they approached me and asked me if I would do it, and it just felt right for me as well, So yeah, it fell in quite nicely, that.
Yeah, because I know I watched a documentary on the BBC not too long ago where that I think it was called the club that wouldn't die.
Yeah.
And obviously you're on there being interviewed quite a lot, and you're saying about it was good to just get a group of Newport people together to play for Newport, and that was a really good starting point. And then obviously you went on to win the Hellenic League then, didn't you, in that season? And then that meant that because the next question I actually had, what was it like to have to go and play in Gloucestershire for the home games during that season? I imagine that was a difficult feat for you.
Do you know what? I think it was, looking back on it now, it was an amazing 12 months because we couldn't play at home. The FAW wouldn't allow us to play at home. So we had to play away, 80 miles away. And we took 500 people nearly every week. So
there was support.
And you know what, Chris? What it meant was that players mixed with supporters, and we almost re-established a bond between the club and the supporters, which had gone when the club went bust. And, you know, I think we had 3 or 4 postmen, Norman Parcell, Gary Spinks, Chris Stanton, 3. Carl Ruddle came a bit later. But so the supporters were friends of the players. They knew the players. They worked along the players. The postman used to have a little sleep on the way because they got up early to do the. And you know what? It went back to grassroots, but they were good players. And I think we won by about 97 points or something. We absolutely battered the rest of the teams in that league. We had a good crop of Newport lads as well. A real good crop.
Yeah, I suppose you're going to get that connection more, aren't you? You know, the fact that everybody knows each other. I mean, I'd imagine the reason you took 500 there is because, you know, there was a lot of friends of the people who eventually played for the club at that time.
Yeah, it was a really good time. You know, I really enjoyed it. The club needed that to almost sort of get back its identity, if you know what I mean, and re-establish itself. You know, it's like, right, okay, you know, we've been right down the bottom. We know it's a long way back, but it was almost the ideal way to come back. And I've got to say, David Hando was amazing in that time. Absolutely amazing.
What a man! What a man!
I couldn't see how we could win that case, because up till then, the law had never involved itself in sport. They usually deferred to the national body, you know, the FAW or UEFA. And David said, we can win this case. And I said, David, they're not going to do it. They're not going to go against UEFA and FAW. He said, and I remember he said to me, you just keep looking after the lads. You look after the playing side. Leave that to me. So I said, fair enough. And, you know, he was absolutely spot on. When we won the case in London, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, it was amazing. Amazing.
Because I know you got to play in Newport again after the Hellenic League. You got to play at Somerton Park again for a couple of years before W introduced the League of Wales and then imposed that ban on playing in Wales for as long as you wanted to stay in the English League. Yeah. Obviously, I was only a little nipper back then, so I wouldn't have known what was going on. So I've had to sort of do my research on all this. So it was Charlie Hopkins who got involved, wasn't it?
Yeah, Charlie Hopkins and another chap. I can't remember the name of the other chap because I don't think I ever met him. I met Charlie quite a few times. Yeah. I mean, he's a bright man. He's a clever man, and apparently the story goes that he was in the loo at Gloucester at half time, and he said to one of the supporters, "What?" Because he's a Newport man. Why are we playing here? And the chap said, "You better go and see David. He'll tell you the whole story." David told him the story, and he said, "No, that's not it. We'll get that done. We'll get that changed." But there's a lovely story about us going back to Newport because the ground had to be ready for European nights when we were in Europe. So we had fencing that complied with European standards. We had the lights that complied with the UEFA standard. Yeah. And a chap from the Beezer Homes League, as it was then, turned our ground down as not being good enough, up to standard. Right? We went to Leicester United and got changed in a porter cabin, and apparently we didn't have enough toilets in the main dressing room or something. We had the ground could accept 11,000 in. We had the top of the range lights, and this fella from the Beezer Homes League turned us down at first.
Over an extra toilet in the home dressing room.
Yeah, and we used to go to places which was in the field with just one little barn, you know. It was ridiculous. We got that overturned quite quickly. But and I tell you what, the players actually, because the ground had been left for a few years, so all the players pitched in the summer and did all the painting. So we had Graham Rogers, my assistant, did all the plumbing. So it was a team effort from supporters. They turned up en masse, and we just painted everything and got it all spick and span for the season. It's good.
Lovely. So then, obviously, we had a couple of seasons back in Newport before the FAW did that, and then
Yeah.
So you were there to oversee all of that then. So for us to be able to play back in Newport again, I know by then they were knocking Somerton Park down, unfortunately, for housing, and Newport
Yeah.
Stadium was there then for us, wasn't it? For
Yeah.
the foreseeable future then. So obviously, yeah, come 1993, that's when you moved on yourself. You worked as an assistant manager to your former managers, Colin Addison and Len Ashurst eventually
Yes.
then. So how was that experience for you? Obviously to play for them and then to work with them on the coaching side.
It was really nice. They both knew that I had been keen on coaching. I'd done my coaching badges with Tony Pulis when I was 24. I had my full badge at 24. So they were aware that I could coach. Colin asked me to go up to Merthyr, and that was a great experience with Colin. And then Len, out the blue, rung me and said, "Come to Western. This is my last job." And it was great because I became friends with people who had just been my manager before.
Yeah.
And I learned so much off both of them. I mean, top managers, both of them. If you think about it, Len managed Sheffield Wednesday, Sunderland, amongst others. Colin went to Atletico Madrid, managed Atletico Madrid and Celta Vigo and West Brom. So there's a wealth of experience, and I couldn't help but pick up some great stuff, and two great characters, and it was a great experience for me.
Yeah, it goes to show you learned a lot from them because your next job as a manager was at Bath then.
Yeah.
And you won the Southern League title to get them promoted to the Conference South.
Yeah, we got to the playoffs in the first season, and we won it. We won it with about 97 points, I think. We had a really great. We had a good set of lads. It's a smashing club, Bath City. I got a lot of time for the people there. Good people. Lovely ground to play on at Twerton. And I had 4 great years there. Really enjoyed it. So
then it says on your Wikipedia that you took a sideward step after not long after winning promotion.
There was a problem actually, because I was working for the PFA and they were happy for me to manage up to a certain level of the, but as it got towards conference, it was almost seen like a conflict of interest. So I knew that I wasn't going to leave the job I was in full time, and they were getting a little bit anxious about me coming up through the pyramid. Because I'm dealing with players who were contract players, because the PFA. So I took a sideways step. My assistant, Adi Britton, who's a smashing fella, I said, "You take over and I'll set up the academy." And I set up the academy with Paul Williams, and then I just drifted off. To be fair, Chris, I think it was Jack Charlton who said, if you're at a club for more than 4 or 5 years, you have to move on yourself or you change the players. One or two things, And I'd had the same group of players, and I think it was probably right time for both of us to move on, really. So and that was my last job actually. I didn't pursue another management job after that.
So you just stopped with your job in the PFA then?
I moved on to the Football League, the English Football League Trust, and my job was really organising all the community schemes around the country. So I was instrumental in setting up County in the Community. I recommended Norman for the job. I didn't think there was anyone else in the city who could do as good a job as Norman, and I've got to say he's amazing. He's set up an amazing programme.
Yeah, I mean, Norman, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone in the UK who could do a better job than Norman for County in the Community. And
for Newport, Newport through and through. Pill lad, knows everybody, and some of the programmes he's got are really, really impressive. He's done a great job.
I'm a particular fan of the We Wear the Same Shirt programme.
Yeah, that is an amazing project. I've gone to see it. That was my job really for the PFA and the Football League for years, organising these community schemes. And one thing straight away is that kind of project will never make money or never break even. So what you have to do is it's such a great project that you have to find money from somewhere to do it, because even though you're going to lose money on it, it's so worthwhile. And it changes so many lives. You just got to do it, and that's what we've done at the county. We've just said, right, okay, all right, we don't want it to make money. We don't even want it to break even. We know it won't. We just make sure we find a way of making it work, and it's an amazing project. I think it won us Project of the Year as well with the Welsh Sports Association.
Yeah, I heard something about that. I'm not quite. Yeah, I'm not sure. I remember exactly what it was, but yeah, I remember hearing about some kind of accolade for that program.
Yeah,
but
community sport.
It was excellent.
Yeah, it's a great, and we got others, but that particularly I think is our gold standard one. We wear the same shirt.
Absolutely. So, as the club's record longest serving player, it's not far off 350 appearances you made for the club in total. I don't think that includes your appearances you would have made during the Hellenic League season. Did you actually play any games during then? Because obviously I wasn't around during then. Did you play any games during that? I know you were a player manager.
I think I only played a couple. I played at Kidlington. I remember that for some reason. Maybe because we had a few injuries. I mean, I didn't really want to play. I was signed as a player. More or less finished. I played at the odd couple of games, but not many at all. No, I think in the end I made 420 appearances for the county league and cup, different cup competitions.
Right. Okay.
The one thing that's always bothered me is that towards the end of my career I had a lot of injuries, and especially hamstring injuries, left hamstring. And when I went to the PFA to work afterwards, they gave me a thorough medical and found that my left leg was about half an inch shorter than my right. And it was when I broke my leg in '75, playing at Northampton Town. And had I known that, I could have worn a sort of a pad in my boot. And I think I've probably missed 100 games, I reckon, over 7 or 8 years with hamstring problems. And I think if I'd have known that at the time, you know, I'd have loved to have got up to nearly 500. But, you know, that's me one sort of thing that I look back on and say, I wish they'd have identified what was going wrong, you know. But
didn't quite have the medical and the scientific sort of expertise in football then as what we got now, unfortunately.
No, we had a cold bucket, a bucket of cold water.
Sponge, yeah.
and the next player who says, "Is it your left or your right leg?" and just throws water on it. Yeah, but hey, it's a bit more technical now. Yeah.
So, talking about things these days, then, how happy is it for you to actually see us back in the Football League now? You know, with the new club, and then how do you rate Michael Flynn's current spell as manager?
Okay, well, I was at Wembley when we got back into the league. It was a great day. 25 years after, you know, me and David and the rest of us started it back up. It was just great. It was great to see us there. It was like a culmination, a complete circle of of every, you know, that day at Wembley, I thought of people who'd been involved in that circle, you know, in that cycle, getting us back up. People who've done a great job, you know, Tim Harris, Graham Rogers, and many others, Dean Olsworth, and everyone had a part to play in that progression back to the league. So that was brilliant, and it was necessary. We lost a generation of supporters, unfortunately, probably to Cardiff City.
I was part of that, unfortunately, because as I told you before, I like Liverpool growing up. You know, I never really realised Newport had a competitive team until I grew old and realised it for myself. Yeah,
no, and you're not alone, Chris. You know, I walk past the station sometimes on a Saturday, and even now you might see a few hundred people going to Cardiff City in Bloom, and that never used to happen. You know, never used to happen. But you can understand it because they wanted to see professional football, and we weren't able to provide that to the extent that we should have for them 25 years. As for Michael, well, I've known Michael since he was about 12 because he used to come to my school of excellence. Okay. Smashing lad, smashing cat. I think he's done a great job. Yeah. And I think fans sometimes they just want to take a step back and have a think about things. You know, he's brought us success in terms of amazing cup runs that we never had when I played, and you know, probably the likes of, you know, we had Man City down there, you know, we had, you know, Spurs. I mean, it was amazing. So first of all, I think he's done a great job. Yes, he's going to have bumps on the way. Yes, he's going to have reversals. He hasn't got a lot of money to spend, but I think him and Wayne have done a smashing job.
Yeah.
And I just hope that people just bear with him when he's having a bad time and just reflect on, the fact that I think he's done a smashing job, yeah.
I think that great escape, I don't think there's any manager in world football who would honestly turn around and say that they could have achieved what he achieved in those 12 games.
Oh, well, I'd more or less given up the ghost. I couldn't see how we could get away with it. And I played in the last Great Escape in 77 against Workington, and we won 5 on the bounce there. But I could see similarities in that, Chris, because all of a sudden, another result. I knew at the end, the last game was at home. And I thought, all of a sudden, there was that kind of belief that, you know what, this is on now. And it was over a period of weeks, wasn't it? But the great thing about that was that day in the stand, they put all the ex-players and ex-managers together. So I was with Colin Addison. I was with Roddy Jones next to me. Grant Davis was there. Neil Bailey was down. And Colin actually said, we're not going to score today. I can't see it, because it didn't look like it, did it? Didn't look like anything was happening. Just as Pipey got the ball on the right hand side and then come back on his left foot. Yeah. And I'm going, no, your right foot's better for that. And he floated a lovely ball in. O'Brien, bang, smashing, fantastic goal. Colin Addison jumped all over everyone in front of us. And it was just like mad, And I can honestly see that it was a great feeling. We all went back into the Bisley stand, all the ex-players. We were buzzing, absolutely buzzing. No, it's one of my... I think I said that to a few people that day. It's probably the best day in football when I wasn't involved myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just had a buzz about the place and thought, great. Because I do think, Chris, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, had we have gone down then, I dread to think what would have happened to the club. I really do. So
how important that was, because I know Wembley, anyone associated with the club who went to Wembley when we beat Wrexham, will say that was like the greatest day of their lives. But I'd say the Great Escape conclusion was possibly the most important day for the club in recent years, because not obviously at Wembley we had it all to take. With the Notts County game, we had it all to lose, and we had an awful lot to lose if we hadn't have won that game. Oh. I think that was that bit more important to us than the Wembley victory.
I absolutely agree. And, with that game, the second half was dreadful because the scores were coming in. We'd lost our way a bit. We didn't look like scoring, in truth. There was no momentum being built. It was just two players, Pipey on that right foot, cutting back. Mark, who'd stayed up there, because the ball had come back and he stayed up there, and he never hit a sweeter, chest, volley, goes in, and the whole place erupted. And after that, we never give them a sniff. We had 5 minutes to play, and I thought, right, how are we going to see this out? As a manager, you think, right. And to Flinney's great credit, and Wayne, whoever, they got the ball in that top end, and we kept it there, and we never under stress at the other end, which is great. And then the whistle blew and everyone went mad.
You look at players like Sean Rigg and Marlon Jackson, who never really got any sort of accolades while playing for us. They never got any praise from any supporters. In fact, Marlon Jackson got slated an awful lot. But what them two up in that corner managed to do, they saw out the majority of that 5 minutes in that corner, just the two of them together. So amazing. I'd say Jackson could have scored 20 goals for us across his career, but his most important act would have been keeping all of that ball in that corner the way that he did. Yeah,
absolutely. And if you were in that back four, you'd be the first one to go up and say, because that's when you're under pressure now. You've got 5 minutes to see the game out. It means so much to the club. It could mean the existence of the club or not. So as a back four and a keeper, you want someone to get hold of that ball and keep it 80 yards away from you. And they did it. They did it fantastically well. And that wasn't really mentioned afterwards. But I know that of all the ex-players, we were talking about that for ages afterwards. That professional way of seeing that game through, which is great.
That 5 minutes in limbo.
Yeah.
It's 5 minutes of my life, that was.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think everyone's the same. But you have to go through like that, times like that, and then you have the euphoria, because it's the second time the club's done it. As I say, we weren't given an absolute chance in 77. I think we won the last 5 games on the bounce.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it was a very similar story of what Michael and these lads managed to pull off in. Yeah, it's great.
Because if you weigh it up, in 12 games they won 7 and drew 1.
Yeah.
Previous to that, for 34 matches, they only won 5 all season. That group of lads.
Yeah.
They won 5 and 34, but managed to win 7 of the last 12. Then from there, it just goes to show the difference. You know, Michael Flynn made when he came in and took.
Yeah.
Hold
When
of
did
things.
he actually come in? Did he come in about March or February, March?
I can't remember what month it was. I think it was towards the end of March, because I remember the next game was Crewe, because I remember saying that if Graham Wesley's still our manager, I'm not going up there to watch us lose to Crewe and watch another nail go in our Football League coffin.
Yeah.
But then they sacked him. They put Flinney in charge, and I insisted on going then, because I knew we were going to win. I just knew it. I felt it with my bums, and we did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He's a great character, Flinney. Nice kid. Well, not kid now, but nice fella. But won't take any messing around. And he was probably the ideal candidate to do that job at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
The absolute ideal person to do it. And that's a massive moment in this club's, backstory, if you like. That last few games. Yeah, brilliant.
Awesome. So I got one last question for you then, John. It's
Okay.
one I ask everybody. Who's the best player you played with and the best player you played against during your playing career?
Well, playing against is easy because I played against George Best twice.
Oh God, yeah.
Once, which was behind closed doors at Chester. We used to play Man United. We used to play Man United, Liverpool, and Everton most pre-seasons behind closed doors because they just wanted to bring their squads down. And so I played against George Best at Sealand Road in Chester, and then I played against him for the county against Bournemouth, where we won away from home, and he played. So he's the best player I've played against. Amazing.
Yeah.
For 20 minutes, he run me ragged. He was right wing, and then he wasn't fit at the time. He was on the drink, and he went further and further back. He ended up playing in front of the centre half and spraying the ball around, but he was no problem through us then. But the first 20 minutes, he played right wing, and he still had, he's amazing. So that was easy. He's the best player I've ever played against. Playing for, I'd put a couple there. Kenny Stroud was a hell of a player. I don't know how much you know about Kenny Stroud. Came from Swindon.
Not an awful lot about our sort of Ironside's history. I know a lot around the promotion seasons and promotion season, and obviously playing in Europe and onwards. But then before that, it's quite shady, to be honest. So
yeah, well, Kenny Stroud was Keith was the centre half, and Kenny was the defender who played alongside him. Who was like, you being a Liverpool fan, you think of Alan Hansen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was silky, Kenny. Kenny come out from the back, could play, could spray the ball around. He was amazing on the ball. He played. He should have played in the first division in my book, but he would be the one player I would put alongside Keith. But I would have to go with Keith Oakes because of what I told you previously. All the qualities he had, I would have to say Keith Oakes the best player I played with. But following on from that, Kenny Stroud's a close second.
Yeah, fair play. Just one last one then for you. I've just noticed the shirt you got framed behind you there. Is that a Carl Zeiss Jena shirt?
Yeah, that's a Carl Zeiss Jena shirt. That's my shirt. Oh, you don't know if you can see that. That's my shirt.
Oh, right, yeah.
From 82, 83. The story about that one, though, Chris, is that that's not the kit they played in. I don't know if you remember, because they played in hoops.
Yeah.
And again, they did a number on us. They did a number on us of a few. They were seasoned performers in Europe. Carl Zeiss. They used to get in most years or round about it. So they did a few things to us. For instance, they persuaded the club that when we went to East Germany, they would buy all the food and get the accommodation. And when they travelled to us, we would buy all the food and the accommodation. So we had probably the worst food we've ever had when we went over there. Yeah. And they came to the New Inn. They were having steaks for breakfast. They were having steaks 2 or 3 times a day. So they done us there. Oh, and also, they when we asked them to change the shirts, we give them our shirts, and they said we'll package your shirts up. And they came to our dressing room and they're all packed. But it was their training kit.
Oh, bloody hell.
They wouldn't give us their own kit. They said they weren't allowed to. So if you see any pictures of Carl's Ice, you'll find that they played in hoops. But that is their training kit or second kit that they give us. You know, so, but we were new to Europe, and they, you know, so yeah, they didn't have much, to be fair, in East Germany at the time. It was quite.
Yeah, oh, that's fair enough then. I will let them off then.
Let them off, yeah.
Oh, well, John, that's all I've got for you then, mate. No, I really appreciate your time. You know, it's been great talking to you, mate, and it's been great, you know, sort of understanding how things were back then. Like I said, my knowledge of the club pre-Exiles is quite shady, so to get a real feel for it and actually get some knowledge, it's great to talk to people like yourself and Keith and Kevin.
Yeah.
You know, so that's great. I really appreciate your time, mate, and thanks a lot. I'm sure you really enjoy this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, Chris. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Good luck
great.
for the county next year.
Thanks very much. All the best, mate. Okay. Hopefully, see you down Rodney Parade sometime soon.
Okay.
Yeah. As I say, hopefully we'll see you down Rodney Parade sometime
soon.
Oh
yes, when we're allowed in.
Hopefully
by October. Hopefully by October.
Fingers crossed. Cheers, John. All the best, mate.
Yeah. Cheers, Chris.
Many thanks for watching the latest content on the Amber Army channel. Please make sure you leave us a like. Make sure you subscribe for more content, both for the neutral football fan and also plenty of Newport County. Even more Newport County content can be found on the club's iFollow channel on the link above. It is just £4.49 per month to subscribe to that service. And those of you feeling extra generous can also support us on Patreon on the link at the bottom there. That would be a monthly donation of your choice. Thank you again. Make sure you've subscribed, and as always, up the county.